Good morning. My name is Chris Fox, and today we're talking about my income for 2018. So we're going to break down how I made money last year, where it came from, what the sources are, and I'm going to contrast it to previous years. So I've got a handy dandy little chart I will show you. It includes the comparison of previous years, including expenses. So we're going to go over that in the next segment. And then the final segment of the video, I'm just going to be talking to you for a while about how 2018 went and kind of I guess where I want to go in 2019 and how I'm going to get there. So you'll sort of see the shift, and not just in strategy, which is important, but also in mindset. Like what I'm trying to accomplish in 2019 is radically different than 2018. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it, and I'll show you how I did this year. Okay, so I figured I'd start with the most important data first, like how did I do? And you can see here the answer. Gross income for 2018 was $194,900. And that is about $15,000 higher than last year, as you can see. Now, looking at my little spreadsheet here, anything that's green means it improved over the previous year, and anything that's yellow means that it got worse. So yellow is bad, green is good. And the more green, obviously, the better. I'm tracking two things on the sheet. You can see the amount of money I made and where it came from, and you can also see the amount of money I spent and where that went. And I want to stress, guys, this is extremely rough. These numbers are not 100% accurate. I whipped them together very quickly. And even for previous years, they're not 100% accurate. If I went back in now and revised these, they wouldn't exactly match the income. But they're close enough for comparison purposes. And you can sort of get an idea of kind of how I'm spending in various areas. So anyway, looking at income, you can see I had a significant increase in paperback despite the fact that I was not releasing very many books. I only put out 4 books in 2018 versus 8 in 2017. And yet, despite the fact that I didn't have very many new releases, my income did go up and my advertising spend didn't go up very much at all. So, overall profit is higher. You can see a corresponding increase in audio sales, but then a drop in ebook income. And this is because I'm not hitting the new releases. And as everyone who publishes on Kindle knows, it's very much a new release game. If you're not putting out new content every 6 to 8 weeks, then you're going to start falling in ranks, you're going to make less money. It's harder to advertise your backlist successfully long term, and the more time has passed since you've released a book, the worse your performance is going to be. Next, you can see I've got other retailers. I took my nonfiction series and I just listed it on Kobo and on iTunes. Again, I took it wide, so that's where that $400 is coming from. And that hopefully should grow significantly next year. Not a lot, but my nonfiction stuff at least will be on all outlets. The big change for me, and a lot of people have asked about this, is in consulting and affiliate income. So for consulting, you can see I made $19,500. There is an interesting story behind how this evolved. I didn't really want to do much consulting this year, and so I kept raising my prices. So when I started at the beginning of the year, I had raised it to $350 over $250 last year. And then I started charging $500 an hour, and I thought that was a lot, but tons of people were still coming to me. And I was still trying to work on other projects, so I finally started telling people as kind of a way to say, go away, I want $1,000 an hour if you want me to consult. And that didn't slow them down. That actually increased the flow of people coming to me for advice. And this year, what I got to do, and was tremendously valuable for me professionally, is I learned how to manage other people's backlist. I had people come to me and say, okay, Chris, I'll pay you $1,000 an hour, and I need 3 or 4 hours of your time. Here's the 60 books that I'm getting back from these publishers. What should I do? And we would together craft a launch plan where we would relaunch their entire backlist. And in every case, I am proud to say, the fee that I charged, they more than made up for in their launch month. And so I am worth the money that I was charging, which is important. I don't want to just make money, I want to provide value. Anyway, you can see at the end of the year, I made almost $20,000 from consulting. Next year, I'm doubling that number because basically I include the course I'll be running, the Right to Market Masterclass course, as consulting. And so that's why that number should go up. It's still not going to be a major focus of my business, but it will go up. Affiliate income, this is the most fun part of my income because affiliate income is just you clicking on a link on like one of my Facebook ads or one of my emails, and I get a little bit of money from you buying a book on Amazon. But the vast majority of this came from the 2 webinars that I ran with John Truby. Almost $10,000 of this revenue came from those 2 webinars. People bought courses, I made money. It was really kind of nice because most people were happy with the course. They enjoyed it just like I did. And I got to make a significant amount of money telling people about it. So next year, I'd like to kind of double my income from the affiliate side of things. I've gotten better at advertising, so that part of it's going up. And then I'll probably run webinars for other goods and services I think are valuable to authors. I won't do a ton of them, but I will do a little bit more this year because it was fun and profitable, and I liked how it worked. So now we're jumping into expenses. And you can see the first column here is advertising and software. Now, my first year, 2016, almost exclusively my success came from word of mouth. I did some Amazon advertising, but you can see the numbers are way lower. It's only 18,000 for advertising and software. So that's Book Report, BookFunnel, Scrivener, any software that I use, or any fees, MailChimp, whatever fees I get from lead pages, all that stuff rolled in, and it was only 18,000. But then in 2017, it over doubled. It went up to 39,200. The vast majority of that increase was in advertising. It's more expensive to stay competitive. And you can see in 2018, it even crept up a little further. This year was 41,800 for me. So software actually went down a little bit in price, but I'm dumping a ton more money into advertising successfully. Editing and covers is way down in 2018, as you can see. And here's the real rub of that. Not only did I reduce it significantly, the amount of money I was spending for editing and covers, but all that editing and about half the cover design money is going into my household. So Mary is doing the covers, so I'm paying her for that. And then Lisa is doing the editing now. For those unfamiliar with the channel, my editor for Forever and a Day has been Tammy Labreck, who is amazing, and I cannot recommend her high enough. But of course, because she is so good, she's expensive, as she should be. And Lisa's a little cheaper because she's new, and also paying Lisa means I'm paying it back into my own household. So a lot of that $23,000 went right back into my home, which is wonderful and sustainable. Payroll and retirement, this is just the money that I pay myself for a salary, and then also when I'm dumping into retirement, kind of rolled into one fee. You can see it increasing in 2019 because instead of paying Lisa's editing business, I'll probably give her a little salary. We've been talking to an accountant that maybe it makes sense to do that. And that's why you see that going up for my goals in 2019. Insurance, travel, and just miscellaneous expenses were all a little bit higher for me this year. I mean, what are you going to do about insurance? That's just going to keep going up. But travel was a choice. I chose to travel more and blow a little bit more money on plane tickets and going various places. And so I'm going to dial it back a little bit probably in 2019, but not much. Which brings me, I guess, to the most important line. That's the estimated pre-tax net income. And you can see in 2016, the money that was left over after most of the expenses and before taxes were taken out was about $53,000. Last year was only $36,000, so I made a lot less money. That actually ended up in my pocket. Even though my overall income was higher, I spent more to make it. But this year, you can see I'm back to almost 2016 levels of profit. A lot more of the money is making it into my pocket. I'm getting better and more efficient at advertising. And it's my goal for 2019 to sort of carry it into that. Like you can see in my 2019 goals, they are way more aggressive. I want to spend a lot more money on advertising, and I want to be more efficient in my editing and covers. And I want to get out more books and do it more intelligently. And I'm shooting for that super high 332,000 goal, which it sounds pretty crazy. But let's jump into kind of where I am at right now, and I'll show you why maybe this is something that I can do. So this is the income for the month. Already, we are on January 3rd. In order for me to make my goals, if you saw on that goal sheet, I need $500 a day from ebooks. And the first day was $489, the second day was $480, and if we go back here and you look at the last 30 days, in the last video, we talked about how I wanted to get up to a comfortable $500 a day. And normally what happens when I have a new release like Crocs Rises is the first week or so will be high, and then it'll start sloping down. But notice we have the opposite here. Crocs Rises comes out, and I start pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and now here I am hitting that $500 a day that I've been after. And I'm sort of staying there. And the difference here is that I'm advertising intelligently, and that seems to be succeeding for me. So the numbers are going in the direction that I want. Instead of falling like I would expect, I'm using strategic advertising to keep them high. And then on the 10th, I'm going to be releasing that first book from my catalog, like you saw in the last video, the Magitech Chronicles box set. And that should spike them up even higher and keep them going. So I really want to keep my numbers, kind of moving in a good direction. I want to keep my daily totals up, and I'm tracking that a little more closely. I'm dumping more money, more intelligently into advertising and spending more time doing it. And I expect that's going to be very successful. So the last part of the video, I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to talk about some decisions that I made. I'm going to talk about how things went in 2018 versus 2017 and how I want them to go in 2019. Anyway, let's jump into the next segment.
Okay, so this is the heart-to-heart part of the video. If you guys remember, and I know a lot of you have followed the channel for, God, years now, at the end of 2017, I was burnt out. I'd been going to a bunch of conferences. I'd had an emotional roller coaster that year because some of my releases hadn't gone well. Some did. TechMage kind of turned things around for me, and the Magitech Chronicles were keeping me afloat. But the Ganon Wars trilogy that I put out bombed, to be frank. Like, it made a profit, but just barely, and it really should have done better. And I had made a lot of mistakes that caused it to not be successful. So rolling into 2018, I was tired and I was burned out. And I happened across a book called, God, what is it? The 48 Laws of Power? Wow. Now I'm wondering, did I get the number of laws right? I guess we'll see. Maybe Mary will correct me. Anyway, the 48 Laws of Power is a phenomenal book. And I had spent, 20 or 30 hours listening to the audiobook. And there's lots of interesting tidbits that had been leaping to mind and things I was thinking about as I was going through that book. But one of them that really slapped me in the face and I loved was the idea that if you are in the public eye and you want to kind of hit the reset button, all you need to do is disappear for a while. And I decided that was going to be 2018. I was going to make 2018 as low-key as humanly possible. So I wouldn't be involved in the media, and I wouldn't be doing podcast interviews, and I wouldn't be putting out a ton of books, and I wouldn't be trying to succeed. If here is the visible line of success where you're in the top 100 of science fiction authors, I wanted to be here. And it worked. It worked. You can see that I made a ton of money. And yet you probably didn't hear a lot of news about me this year because I didn't want to make the news. I very intentionally stepped out of the limelight and took some time to kind of rejigger my business and figure out, okay, what do I want to do going forward? Because, my daily income is no longer as important as it once was. Like, I have enough capital now that I can afford to bankroll projects. And if I want to stop working for a while, I can. That gave me the freedom to really think about things and say, okay, how do I take it to the next level? How do I become the author I want to be? So I spent a lot of time this year working on my Shattered Gods fantasy world, working on the Magitech Chronicles role-playing game and universe, because they're one and the same. Shattered Gods, my fantasy brand, and the Magitech Chronicles are set in the same universe. So I kind of really built that brand. I worked on the role-playing game. I built out a bunch of lore for the website. I really spent a lot of time world building and learning and working on craft. And I can get away with that. As you can see financially, I didn't suffer at all this year. I made more money, not less. But I also had the freedom to kind of plan my launches strategically for this year. So if you didn't get a chance to watch my 2019 publishing schedule video, which is the one that preceded this one, it gives you a lot more context on all the books that are coming out. But you'll see I'm going to release very heavily this year. So this is when I burst back into the limelight and I try to get into the Amazon top 100. And the reason why it makes more sense for me to do it this year and to kind of try and sustain it is I was banking books last year. I put Dryker's Folly aside. I put the Dark Lord Burt aside. I didn't release as many box sets as I could have because I knew that I want to do them this year. And now this is the year that I reap all of that success, all the stuff that I was doing over the last year. And I have a much better understanding of how I want to release everything. Your launch in this industry is so important. And what I did very strategically in 2018 was limited the number of people that were seeing the Magitech Chronicles. And at first glance, that might seem counterintuitive. Like, why would you want less sales? That's crazy talk. But I've been accused more than once in my life of being crazy like a fox. And once upon a time, I did write a little book called Six Figure Author. Lots of people, I think, forgot this year that I had a lot of data strategies, and that was good because prior to that, in 2017 especially, too many people were studying my success. Too many books were coming out mimicking what I was doing. When I put out TechMage, the launch week, there were like 5 other series that were basically the same as mine. And what I did in 2018 is I took a step back and I was like, oh, okay, guys, you want to release some space fantasy? Go for it. And I let all their series flounder. And there are a couple of exceptions. But most of those series didn't do tremendously well. And then I went back in and I started releasing more books and kind of picking up the Magitech Chronicles, and now it's selling incredibly well. And during that same time period, I built a role-playing game. Now, for those of you that are not science fiction and fantasy nerds like I am, role-playing games are a big, big industry. And Dungeons & Dragons is more popular than it has been ever, globally. So more and more people are playing these role-playing games, and they're hungry for new content. And I realized if I could release a role-playing game for the Magitech Chronicles in 2019, I could put my series on the map in a way that other people can't match. And unsurprisingly, as soon as the word came out after the 20 books to 50K Vegas convention that I was working on a playtest version of the Magitech Chronicles, other authors started contacting me. I've heard from lots of people they're now getting role-playing games made. And almost every author asked the same question. Not how do you build a role-playing game, but rather who do I have to pay money to build a role-playing game for me? And that's not the way to do it. It isn't. If you're not a diehard role player, you can't just bolt one of these on to your series of books and expect it to succeed. I still play Dungeons & Dragons every Saturday night, and if I'm not playing Dungeons & Dragons, I'm probably playing another game like Shadowrun. I still do this, and I have for the entirety of my adult life. So I am my target audience, and I understand the rules of these games well enough that I will be able to release a role-playing game that is balanced and will work. And that's going to be an important part of my strategy for 2019 because I'm now leaning into an area that other people can't easily reach. And I have enough money that I can advertise the crap out of my books. So I'm going to be having, $500 or $600 or $700 a day going at the first book in the series, or possibly the box set, whichever one is being more successful. And I'm going to be funneling all of the people that are finishing those books to my website, to the role-playing game, to the audiobooks, trying to build up momentum on this. And all this really is just a test. The Magitech Chronicles is not my number one brand. It's never been meant, to be that. I think it'll be tremendously successful for me in 2019. But what I'm doing is building a pattern, a template, so that I can replicate this in the other series that I'll be putting out. And you'll get to watch that. I'll do probably quarterly income reports in 2019 to show you whether or not I'm hitting my goals. And I suspect that I will be. I have lots and lots of plans this year. There's going to be a lot of opportunity in our industry to break into new areas. It's not going to be just about selling books anymore. And you're going to see more and more bigger indie authors breaking out and getting TV shows and getting movies and having big deals with Audible and going to New York publishers. And I want to be at the forefront of that. I want to build something lasting that is my brand for the rest of my career. And you're going to get to see that manifest in 2019. So all this stuff that I've been quietly working on over the last year is finally going to come to light. And you're going to say, oh, that's what Chris was doing. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it because I think the hardest part of taking a step out of the limelight and working on long-term projects and thinking about it is seeing the people that are succeeding right now. There's always a churn in this industry. Today's top dog is, tomorrow's old lunch. And that churn is always happening. And I get to see a lot of my students and a lot of people that are just friends of mine that are succeeding at a level above me because they are releasing more books and they have been really flogging the ebook side of things. And I've had to ask myself, is doing the Right to Market masterclass and getting that all built, is working on this role-playing game, is exploring advertising platforms that most authors haven't heard of, is doing all that stuff worth it? And in 2019, we're going to get to figure out whether or not it is. But whether it is or isn't, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing. And if I'm right, it's gonna pay off, and you're going to get to watch me hit a level of success that dwarfs anything I've done before. So I am super excited about this coming year. You're going to see me release a whole bunch of books and hopefully make more money than I have ever made. I'm more excited than I've ever been as an author. I think I know how to do this better and make more money doing it. And you know what? If I pull it off, I'm buying a house in 2019, which I've been trying to do forever. So that's kind of where I'm at, guys. I hope this video is useful. I hope you pick up some tidbits. I never know exactly what to include. So if you have questions or suggestions for future content, drop those in the comments. I'm going to keep the videos coming. I have some exciting stuff coming up about world building, about motivation, and just about data in general and how the publishing industry is changing, but how I think we can grow with it. Like lots and lots of people are using the term pay to play on various writing forums and are saying, oh, we're scared, it's terrible. I remember the emergencies of 2014 and 2015 and 2016. This is not the first time we've seen changes, and I'm not worried at all. We can adapt to this stuff. We can make more money than ever. All the tools that we need to do are out there, and I'm going to be showing you the ones that I'm using over the next year. So guys, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. I need to get back to writing Nefarious, so I'm going to do that right now. I will see you next week.